Welcome to another episode of the Sipping and Tripping podcast, where we connect with amazing people. Today's topic is I'm sorry. Today's topic is helping women date and find true love, part two. I am your host, Desmond Black, and the person that's sipping and tripping with me today is the returning Miss Lilli Bewley. How are you doing, and how have you been since the last time we spoke?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm glad to connect again. And I don't even know when the last time we spoke was. I think I've been doing pretty good. I think I've been doing pretty good. I've been, I'm always a work in progress and a work in process. And, it's been good. It's been good.
Right? That's always a plus. We always got to stay in high spirits. And like always on this platform, I like to conversate, educate, and entertain. And I think part one was entertaining, but I feel like today is gonna be bigger and better.
Mm.
So without further ado, let's see. I think the last time we ended on we were still talking about feminine dating archetypes.
Mm.
So I guess the first question today is, what are some common dating myths?
Common dating myths. Ooh, there are so many. There's so many out there. I feel like that really, really get people trapped in this like scarcity mentality, especially if we've been through, kind of quote unquote failed relationships in the past or like
Right.
multiple divorces or one divorce. What's interesting about the way that I come from with dating is that, you can have any type of dating expert on the show and they'll tell you like all the stats. Oh, like there's divorce rates are high. They'll tell you like, there are more eligible men or women than men or whatever it is. I don't even know. I don't even look at that stuff anymore. And
Right.
I think one of the biggest myths, which is actually when it turns out like if you believe this, then it's probably what's called I don't know if you've talked about limiting belief here
Right.
on a podcast. I don't even call them limiting beliefs anymore. I call them protective beliefs. So any type of
Right.
like myth, like that's telling you, or if you tell yourself or you tell your friends, like dating sucks, or there aren't enough conscious men out there, or all the good ones are taken, or even if it's deeper than that, like if
Right.
there's subconscious or unconscious things going on, like I'm never going to be skinny enough, or I'm never going to be ready, or I'm never going to be whatever it is. Those are
Right.
all myths they're actually perpetuated by our fears inside of us, but also they're perpetuated on the outside of us. Like
Right.
like like the self-love kind of industry is like a multi-trillion dollar industry because everyone really, whether they know it or they not or they don't, like even going to like buy a car in some ways is a way to make you feel a certain way inside of yourself, whether it be significance, whether it be, oh, I'm going to look good in this car, or I'm going to feel good in this car, or whatever it is. And what that really stems from is a lack of internal love inside of yourself. So there's a
Right.
lot there, but like I remember so many times when I was dating, people used to tell me these things. Oh, there are many fish in the sea, or, oh, just go be yourself, or, oh, just listen to your intuition. And none of that ever worked for me. And you know what else
Right.
never worked for me was the tips and the tricks and the strategies and hacks on the reels on Instagram and TikTok and all this stuff. It's like, if we're seeing really, really the same type of pattern in ourselves or with dating, then it's really about us. It's really about
Right.
what's happening inside of us. It's about things that, even though we may know what they are, there are some like unconscious and subconscious things going on inside of ourselves that's really up for introspection and awareness and healing and growth.
Okay. I agree with everything you said. And I see that a lot myself. A lot of people say, I don't do nothing for nobody else. I'm not trying to impress anybody, but that's bullshit too. Because
Yeah, you
like
kind of
like you
are.
said, like with the cars and stuff. Not only are we saying, oh, I'm going to look good in this, somewhere subconsciously we trying to look good for everybody else's enjoyment. It's not
Exactly.
just for us, right? Because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as we all heard throughout our lives. And it's like we should always have that self-love and appreciation for ourselves. We shouldn't have to find something to cling to feel loved, right? So like you said, I think a lot of times that stems from other things, like a lack of attention growing up or something like that, or in a relationship that
Mm-hmm.
their significant other is not there putting out as much as they are. So now they feel like they have to compensate for, or put themselves on a pedestal because their significant other is not doing it. So essentially, we all do things for that attention and for that validation. We all do things to be seen and be noticed. And I think the last time we were speaking, I was saying how I'm a type of person that I need to feel validated, So
Mm-hmm.
everything goes hand in hand, and we got to stop being afraid to show those vulnerabilities. We got to stop being afraid to show that sensitivity, So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and I
that's
think
good.
yeah, I think what's it's society. Like this is just it's not great because I
Right.
think, when you talk about dating, right? Like, or you talk about, trying to find your dream partner or becoming the best person that you could be, and what, like society will continue to tell us that we're just not enough. We're not enough
Right.
as we are. Just that's it. And then it's very simple, but it's very it's not easy to get to a
Right.
place like when you feel in your bones and in your soul and in your cells in your body that you truly are enough. Like a lot of people are, oh yeah, yeah, like I love myself and all this stuff, but then they'll go and like do things that they don't want to do, or they'll say no when they mean yes, or yes when they mean no, or they won't set boundaries and uphold their sense of like self, and there's a whole lot in that. Um but I think, self-love is it can be very trite talking about it, like, because people will think like, oh, if I go get my nails done or if I take a bath, then I love myself. um so we got to be careful, I think, when we talk
Hmm.
about self-love, because self-love, like when you really really feel this sense of I I am full inside of myself. I in like this idea, like we call it in our communities, we call this the magnetic woman. For the man, it would be the magnetic man. And the magnetic man and the magnetic woman are so in touch, in tune, in spirit, within themselves, with God, with universe, with their actions and their behaviors. So there's a difference between knowing that you're enough and your actions and behaviors displaying that you're enough, right? So a lot of people are very used to attracting people in their life that don't do as they say and say as they do. And so you have to become that person, right?
Hmm.
And so when you know that you're that magnetic person, and again, your behaviors and your actions and your thoughts and your emotions all line up with that belief, like I am enough as I am, then that's when the really good, juicy things come, because
Right.
you're not reaching outside of yourself for happiness, significance, fulfillment, purpose. And this is a hard place to get to, but it's absolutely available to everyone. And that's kind of when you start to call in your dream partner, you start to call in the aligned money instead of the things that kind of make you feel like crap. The aligned purpose, the align, all of the things that are really in alignment and made for you. We just have to become the people that are ready, really, more than anything. And so what's interesting, I think, about self-love is that if we have grown up in situations, like you said, from childhood or from places and things have happened to us in the past in relationships, then likely this idea of love is kind of a transactional relationship. For example, like when I grew up, I didn't know this at the time, right? Like, because I was in it, it was all subconscious and unconscious, and those patterns followed me until I healed them. So there was a transactional relationship with love. Like, if you be quiet, then you'll be loved. If you are a good girl, then you'll be loved. If you get straight A's, you'll be loved. So for you, it may be, if I feel validated, then I'll be loved. So there's something in there about what I call a transactional relationship, which is essentially conditional. You're going to say
Right.
something. I can
Oh
see
no,
the look.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just listening. I was just listening.
Okay. Okay. I thought you were going to say something, so I wanted you to have some space. But what that means is if we're trying to love ourselves today, like in this day and age, at the age you are now and where you are now. And for some reason, there's a transactional relationship with, if I buy this car, then I'm going to feel something. Then that is the work that you have the opportunity to do. Because everyone, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone's watching here, type it in the chat, but correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone wants to be loved by who they are at their core rather than what they do. A little bit different probably for men, but I know for women that, again, we want to be loved by who we are at our core, and not love for being a mom, a teacher, an executive, a boss, blah, 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 blah. And so the way that we do that on the outside of ourselves is start to heal that conditional relationship with love inside of ourselves, because that came from somewhere. And like you said, typically childhood, typically, past kind of traumatic relationships, that type of thing.
Right. I agree with everything you say. And I think men ultimately want the same thing. We just don't express it like women. And I think that's because that's how we was brought up, right? And we're conditioned, we're programmed to believe and think a certain way. But at the core of everything, we all want the same thing, whether a man or a woman. And I'm gonna stay true to that until the day I die. Like, because I not just speaking for myself, but I've been around a lot of men that go through these relationship issues and they talk about their relationships. So at the end of the day, I understand both aspects, like what a woman want, what a man want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just not afraid to put my feelings out there. There is a boundary though. There's a limit to how much you put out there because people will weaponize everything that you say. So you have to draw the line somewhere, but we all want the same thing at the end of the day.
Okay, that's good to know. I will say, Desmond, that the wrong people will weaponize it, and that's the work.
True.
That's the
That's
work.
true.
The wrong.
Well, the wrong people and hurt people as well. Sometimes
Oh
hurt
yeah.
people, they do it because they don't know how to navigate or channel that frustration, and sometimes they will weaponize what they can to get back at you, or like we were saying before, for attention. They feel like the more we probe, the more we dig, the more we upset you, the more attention they're going to get, right? Because hurt people, they don't care if it's good, bad, or indifferent. Attention is attention, and that's what they be seeking. So sometimes a good person that's hurting on the inside will weaponize things as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's also very trite. Hurt people. And again, like, what's interesting about that for me is that I talk to my partner Nick about this all the time, is that it's like we don't consciously hurt people. Like, we're at least the people that I'm around, like, we're good people. We're not going out there and we're not thieving, and we're not all the things. But at the same time, like you're saying, Desmond, if we don't heal at the level that we need to heal so that we don't feel that hurt and pain inside of ourselves, and we don't unconsciously hurt people as well. But what you're saying is exactly right. Yeah, if we don't transmute and we don't alchemize and we don't change and we don't transform inside of ourselves, there is absolutely a kind of a ripple effect, right? Whether that be with your kids, whether that be with your friends, whether that be with the people that you're around. But I will say, like I said, I think the work in dating in particular, especially if we're seeing people come to us that don't understand us, or maybe are somewhat like, not, I wouldn't say abusing, but weaponizing, like you said, like that's a word that you use, weaponizing some things that we say because of our vulnerabilities. Vulnerability can actually be a strength. Vulnerability can actually be a very huge strength in our relationships, but it's also about choosing who the right people are to be vulnerable with. And that, if we've been through some stuff in our life, that is hard to do, because we're going to continue to be attracted to those hurt type of people until we kind of heal the hurts inside of ourselves.
Absolutely. So I got a good question for you. Is nature versus nurture a natural personality trait, or are they trauma responses shaped by past experiences?
Oh, that's a good question. Is nature versus nurture a personality trait, or are they shaped by past trauma responses and experiences? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just take the idea of personality for now. And let's say that for me, for example, in my past, when I was kind of, I would say like I wasn't woke yet. I was definitely, I was living the life that I thought that I was supposed to live, that my parents taught me, told me that I was supposed to live in order to be happy. Society taught me I was living the life I was supposed to live in order to be happy. But inside, like if I had really checked in with myself, I was just dying spiritually. I was dying mentally and physically, emotionally. I just didn't feel lit up by life. I felt drained. I felt like so tired of being sick and tired. And of course, the relationships that I started to attract at that time, or that I was attracting at that time, I was more the giver. I attracted people that were takers. I always felt unseen, unheard, misunderstood, unloved in relationships. That was the pattern for me. And at the time, I would say my personality trait was, I would say I was outgoing, bubbly, vivacious, which I still am. I would say that I was extroverted and I was a happy person. Again, still am. But what's interesting a lot of times with the personality, quote unquote, that we have formed over time, it actually they're formed by the stuff that have happened to us in the past, if that stuff hasn't been kind of resolved or healed. And I'll give you an example. Like, so this is going to trigger probably some people that are watching this, but like this boss babe kind of mentality, right? This boss babe mentality. If you look at, sometimes the, other spiritual teachers or other teachers out there on the internet will like talk about this idea of masculine and feminine dynamics. If
Right.
if any of these women that are watching goes in and take the feminine dating archetype quiz, and they've heard about this, they're probably going to test for the goddess woman. And the goddess woman is typically a lot, she's done a lot of work on herself, but what she's attracting in her life is feminine men instead of masculine men in her dating life. And it's because there's a masculine part of her. This boss babe thing is what I'm getting at. And I'm curious on your take on this, actually. But there's a very strong masculine part of her, which, let's say, the boss babe, that is awesome and amazing and has absolutely got her places. She knows how to do things. She knows how to get things done. She knows how to be a boss. She knows how to do these things. But that part of her that she is probably describing as her personality is actually a protective part of her.
Right.
And that protective part of her basically says, I can't rely on anyone. I can't trust anyone. I have to be independent in order to be safe. And so
Right.
that is the healing work. You can still be a boss babe and be vulnerable, right? You can still be a boss babe and be feminine. And that juice right there is the work for that woman at that stage. What are you thinking?
Well, the first thing I'm thinking is, I think in this scenario, I think you're referring to yourself. Is
Oh,
that
of
how you
course.
feel?
Of
Oh, okay, I
course.
figured that.
Yeah, of course.
And, based off of the first part of this segment, or the first episode I had with you, and what you just said, I just picked up on you're speaking about yourself. Now, what exactly are you asking me? Do I like that type of woman, or what do I think in terms of why that woman feels she needs to be that way?
I'm just curious. I'm curious on what your thoughts are on that and what you've
So,
experienced as a man is really what I'm
so,
curious.
so for me, hmm,
He's
it,
like,
it's 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 very difficult to deal with a woman like that. Because at the end of the day, I feel like a man is put on this earth to always be the leader and be the boss
sure.
in relationships or even in friendships. We're supposed to be the dominant one, right? And what happened with the boss babe or the woman that feels like they have to be on top or they have to be in their masculine, it's I don't want to say intimidating because I'm not intimidated, but it's intimidating to a lot of men. It's just hard to keep up with, right? Because those are the type of women that set the bar way too high, and I like to say let's say uh unreasonable high expectations.
Mm,
And a lot of times those type of women feel like they're above and they treat everybody less than.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for them to find that middle ground where they show that empathy and that compassion, like you said, and that femininity. And that's going to be a problem with any man,
Mm-hmm.
a man that's going to care about you. Now, if it's a man that just want to sleep with you,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to deal with that because we only dealing with you part time,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
To get what we want, we will tolerate it,
Mm-hmm.
but not in no relationship. It's just
Mm-hmm.
very difficult,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah.
think that's going to cause a wedge in the relationship. It
Sure.
will for
Yeah.
me because I couldn't have that. I couldn't have a woman that feel like she's gonna be dominant or try to put me in my place. I can't. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
Yeah, you guys are just going to keep, if you keep on going, you're just going to keep butting heads because there's only one
Yeah.
person that can hold the masculine pole and one person that can hold the feminine
Right.
pole. And let me just say, like, if anybody is watching or ever listens to this, if this is you, like, this is very triggering for women that are at this stage. And I understand, like, Desmond, you hit it right on. Of course, I've been through this stage, of course.
Right.
And what I like, this idea of you're too much in your masculine, it's not a bad thing. Okay. I just want to be
Right.
very clear with that. It's not a bad thing. Everyone else in this world will make this a bad thing. And it is not from where I sit and where I stand. What our opportunity is as women, if we're holding the masculine pole in most of our life, especially in our relationships and our dating relationships in particular. For example, if you are attracting feminine men, whether you know it or not, you are probably holding the masculine in most relationships. Now, again, this is not a bad thing. So the reason I'm saying this is because every time that we make a part, this is just a part of you. Talk about, like, this is where we got to personality types, right? Your masculine part of you makes a lot of sense based on all of the things that have happened to you in your life.
Right.
Likely, there have been a lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of society, as, like, if we are celebrated as women for achievements, right? We're
Right.
celebrated as women for getting things done. How do you do all this as a mom, right? So everyone, society, and people have been telling you and affirming and validating that this is okay and even celebrated. And it is, right? But what I'm trying to say is that masculine part of you formed when you were younger, when those things happened to you, whether you remember it or whether you don't, whether what happens in your last relationships, that masculine part of you formed because to protect you from future pain and future heartache.
Right.
It's a very protective part, that the story that it's running, and again, it makes sense. The story that it's running is, I can only trust myself. I can't trust other people. I have to do all of it or no one else is going to. And I'm on my own. And
Right.
so that part becomes very strong. And it is so
Right.
strong. So the work is, if anyone's listening to this and you're hearing me and you're connecting to me and you're not too triggered, your work is about healing. How do I trust myself? How do I trust myself to pick the right people? Again, like, going back to some people, like vulnerability, people, like the wrong people will grab onto that and will hurt you. But now it's about, how do I trust myself to pick the right people? That's the work. How do I heal to listen to my intuition? How do I know from the beginning, not when you're like 6 months down the line, who is good for me and who is not? That's the work, right? And over time, this doesn't just happen like this. Like, I'm not in the business of giving tips, tricks, strategies, or hacks. I'm in the business of long-term transformation. And this does not just happen just like a snap of the finger or flip of the switch. But over time, what you will start to see is your masculine parts, not just, they don't leave you completely. Oh, and let me also say, like, little asterisks, stop trying to let things go. That
Right.
doesn't work. It just does
Right.
not work. Like, even though everyone tells you that you should, and sometimes even the spiritual text would say, just let go. If you could have, you would have already. Okay. These are deep rooted unconscious and subconscious patterns that are open and available for your healing and your growth and transformation. So what happens over time with those masculine parts is that they don't go away. They're always going to be there. But what they do, instead of kind of pushing people away in some sense, like, again, like, of course we can get intimate real quick, whatever, and it's done. Or there's a party that latches on and it gets nasty, all the things, been through that too, like situationships, all those things. But over time, that masculine part of you will still be with you, but it will be with you in a different way. It will start to learn that again, we're talking about an aspect of you. That part of you will start to learn that it can trust you, your highest self, your most aligned self, to allow the right people to come in, because it can't trust you to do that. So of course it's going to protect you. It's going to start to trust you to say yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no. It's going to start to trust you about, okay, I'm going to set this boundary and I'm going to hold it for us, to protect us. So when, again, there's a very beautiful alchemy that happens when that masculine part can start to have a new relationship with you as your highest self, because then you guys start to work together instead of oh, I just got to be it's like, I got to be a boss babe, and then there's nothing else, right? So it's more of like, okay, again, it's the both and. I can be a boss babe and be weak and vulnerable. Every woman in the boardroom wants to go home to their man and just melt and just be held, get her feet rubbed, have him draw that bath, get that massage, and just be her, right? Because she can't always do that, depending on like the talk about like, the nurture, the nature piece, the environment, right? She can't always be that way in the corporate environment, or whatever way that she's pushing forward in her quote unquote masculine. I'm not really a huge fan of that like phrase, but a lot of people
what the masculine?
Yeah, or like women will hear. I'm curious who's watching and listening. So type a yes in the chat if you guys are out there, that if you've heard the phrase, you're too much in your masculine as a woman. I'm just curious. I'm curious if we're talking about the right things here. But yeah, I hate that phrase.
Well, for me, I like to tell people, because a lot of men get turned off when they hear that. But this is the thing. I feel like when a woman is acting in their masculine, it's not trying to be a man. It's substituting the word strength. Right. When we say a woman's acting in their masculine, they're just being strong in their position, being strong-willed, being strong mentally. That's what I pick up from women in their masculine, and I feel like every woman should be that way. And quite naturally, it's in you guys. It's in their nature. Yes, exactly. That's what I was getting at. You were born to be strong, right? Mm-hmm. In all aspects. It's a lot of things that fall to the wayside, and a lot of things that go unnoticed. But women are always strong. Mm-hmm. That's why, and when women that have kids, and it sucks to say, it doesn't apply to me, but it's like, that's why mothers are stronger than fathers, right? Because you guys are so strong. It's in your genetic makeup. Yeah, it's in your genetic makeup. So like, outside of relationship, every woman should be in their masculine, because it's going to suck to say this, and a lot of men probably going to look at me like, why would you say that? But it's the truth. Women that don't act in their masculine will get walked over every day.
I'm gonna challenge that. Can you feel it in your body as a man?
Right. When
the type of strength you're talking about is like it's like a woman's strength, right? Like it's a like, she knows how, like, she's been through it with her body. She knows how to care for kids. She'll become like mama bear if she needs to. There's a certain type of strength that women have, but I wanted to, like, there's a nuance in there. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that the biggest thing for me is that you didn't mention. I don't know if you was going to get to that. Is also, when I say women are strong, I'm just saying emotionally, mentally, you're stronger than men. It's been scientifically proven that women mature faster than men. So that's proof to put it in itself. If women mature faster than men, right? I think they said it's either 5 or 6 years. I forgot which one they said. So let's stick with the 5. So a woman, they say somebody that's 20, a woman that's 20 or more mature than a man that's 25. Right? So that that strength that I'm speaking of. So go, my bad. I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, what I really want to draw out is, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a difference between that woman strong and then the strong of, I got to be the man in this relationship.
Right.
Do you feel that, like, as a man? Like, you can feel the difference I think, you tell me, I
Right.
think that you can feel the difference in your body. There's a
Right.
difference between being like magnetic woman energy, magnetic man energy, knowing who she is and what she wants. Her, like, when she can communicate her needs and her wants and desires from a place of inside instead of outside. There's a feeling that's different about that. Does that make sense to you?
No, yeah, absolutely. It's when things come together organically. That's that strength that nobody speaks about. So I feel where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yes, as a man, I can feel that. Right. When things are not forced, it's just natural. It's like we're twins. It's like we feeding off each other. The frequency, and I'm in your head, you in my head. You know my next move before I even make it, and vice versa. So I feel it as a man. I feel it when you find a woman that's in their masculine, that's strong like that. Yes, I can feel it. I can tell.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, like, when people say, like, if they're in their masculine, it's typically like a wounded. It's like more of a protective, not inner protective and kid protective, but again, like the trauma protective part. And that typically it's not fully self-fulfilling, because the story for that part of her is, I can't trust anybody. And how are you going to be in really deep relationships and be supported in, like, a really deep relationship or an aligned relationship or a spiritual relationship, a healthy relationship, if you can't be supported by somebody else? If a part of you is so strong, see, this is like the nuance is, if a part of you is so strong that you can't trust anybody, then how are you going to be supported in the way, like, God, I think, meant for man and woman to be supported. Right. So it can be very nuanced, but I think when most women hear that they're in their masculine, it's less about that woman strong thing and more about, like, I don't want to have to care forever. Like, I don't want to be the manager of the universe anymore. And there are a lot of women that are managing the universe, their universe, and all their things, that they're tired of being sick and tired.
But see, whether man or woman, that's our jobs. It's our jobs. You got to manage. Life is all about managing, right? It's like when people. You don't agree though.
Well, keep going.
So I'm just saying, like, you have to manage every day of your life, right? Like life is it's an everyday process. You're never done growing. You're never done learning.
100%.
You're never done any of these things, and all these things fall under managing, right? You have to manage your health. You have to manage everything, and that's what makes you strong. When we talk about women's strength, men's strength, that's what makes us strong. The perseverance, the grit, right? That tenacity, that determination to continue to keep pushing and putting in that work. That's what makes us strong, right? Now, I'm curious what you was about to say, because I feel like you didn't agree.
I hear you. I understand that stance, because I think it's I don't actually think that I have to, like, I do have systems and processes in my life. Right. That's kind of managing the universe, like managing my universe. The difference is, it may be different I think it's probably different from the way that a man looks at it than a way from that a woman looks at it. Like, a woman, at least for me, I want my life to be structured enough. Like, I'm talking about managing the universe. I want my life to be structured enough where I can be free. And I can be, like, for women, it's about being present with herself and her emotions and all the things that are coming up for her. We are emotional beings, even though society and probably people in your life try to push that away, and you try to push that away subconsciously or unconsciously. Or maybe you feel overly emotional, right? There's no balance. So again, those are like two sides of the coin. But I don't there's a difference between, of course, that everyone has to manage their life, of course, like that's an adult thing to do. Like we don't want to be kids anymore. But the
Right.
difference is that the women that are experiencing this, they feel like they have a white knuckle grip on life. That is what I
Right.
mean. That is what I mean, is everything's always chaos. Everything is always like tightly controlled, tightly edited, tightly wound up in perfectionism. Like it has to be this way or it has to be this way. And I'm telling you, Desmond, that is not how we call in true love. Right. And so
Right.
that is what I mean by manager of the universe. I don't mean like, I
I got what you're
mean,
saying. Yeah.
like, yeah, systems and
Ha-
processes are great. Being an adult in your whole life is great instead of these
right.
little bitty parts of you, like choosing wounded people or whatever. But it's more about like, as women, we are at our best when we can be free and we can be
Right.
in flow and we can be with ourselves and who we are. People say, be a human being instead of a human doing. And that's
Right.
especially true for women. And that is where that masculine part right there, that's where it gets scary,
Right.
because that part of her has probably been leading, that manager of the universe, or we can use whatever term we want, has been leading her life for a very long time to keep her safe.
Right. I understand what you're saying now. Like I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're saying more like that woman that feel like she has to do it all. Right. You need that
Exactly.
time to just sit back and like,
Exactly.
okay, I have help. I have that support.
Exactly. And the
Okay, I
hard
got
part,
you.
yeah, the hard part is that women, again, that have things have happened to her, and people have proved to her time and time again that she can't trust them and they are unsafe. This is going to be very hard for her. And again,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
the healing work, like, is to find and call in the right person who does do that. But what she's experienced in the past is there's nobody out there like that.
Got you. I understand. All right. So, all right, staying with that. What is emotional trauma?
Oh, emotional trauma. So trauma is a big word floating around these days. And so trauma can be big things that happen to us in our life, like overt things, like, of course, like sexual abuse is there. There's, even disasters, right? Natural disasters, that those are big things that can cause internal trauma. But then there's also things in our lives where I work with a lot of women who, can't really remember or can't really pinpoint any, and this was me, by the way, um, can't really pinpoint anything really, really bad that had happened to her, but something feels wrong and something feels off. Something feels like there was a really bad thing that had happened to her. And what that is over time, like emotional trauma, is either really it's the result of either something happening to her, again, overtly, or it could be covert. So, for example, would be like, in your life, say you grew up in a household where all of your needs, like your physical needs, were provided for, but your emotional needs were not provided for, meaning that you felt like you were alone. You didn't feel like you were safe with your emotions. You couldn't feel like you were yourself. Like, a lot of women that I work with are very high powered, high in their masculine women who found love through achievement, right? So basically what they found in their household was that I'm not enough as I am. So anything that happens to us, whether subconsciously or consciously, again, if we're seeing patterns in our life that don't serve us, it's mostly probably subconscious and unconscious. Otherwise, you would already gotten to it in your head by now. But emotional trauma is a result of something that's happened to in your life that tells you that you are less than, that tells you that you don't belong, that tells you that you're not enough, that tells you that you're not worthy, that tells you that you have to be someone other than yourself in order to be happy, be free, be safe. And so it's a lot of times it's either you got too much of something or too little of something, and there's no kind of balance or in between. Like, you have kids, right? So you probably try to let them be themselves as much as they can in that space. And that's very nurturing, especially as someone that is, developing inside of themselves. But emotional trauma can happen when, again, too much of like maybe too much oversight or too much chaos or too much something that happened in your childhood or in your past relationships, or too little, like too little emotional connection, too little. And over time, what happens is these parts of us start to form these beliefs. That's what I was talking about. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I have to do this in order to get love. Over time, because of these kind of little cuts, little wounds, they turn into big wounds. And the big wounds will follow us into our adulthood until we do the healing work necessary.
Gotcha.
And
So, okay.
I agree with Rodney. Some trauma is taught to you by your parents. You didn't experience it directly, but it was told about it so much that you have to put it on your own life. That is called generational trauma, Rodney. And I hope that you're breaking it. Good job.
Right. He's come a long way. He has his own podcast as well. It's
cool.
The Dad Mentality Podcast.
Nice.
The one of the biggest things I enjoy about his podcast is in the beginning, because one of the topics I love talking about is therapy and mental health. So he always does his little mental health check-ins in the beginning of every episode. So that's pretty good. Like where they rate their mental health on the scale, and then then they come together and have a little discussion before they hit into the topic. So that's one thing I enjoy about his.
Cool.
He's a father, so dad mentality. It's about men and fathers, and just it's a positive podcast to be a part of.
That.
But going back to the trauma thing, right? Like, how does trauma stop us, and how do we heal from the trauma properly?
So healing is, from my perspective, healing trauma is less about, so here's the scary part that I think people believe, or parts of people believe about trauma. So we know, let me just say, if you are seeing patterns in your adult life that aren't fulfilling for you, that cause you to self-sacrifice or self-abandon, that are behaviors that in your head aren't good for you, but you do them anyways, there is something in there. You can call it trauma, you can call it patterns, you can call it blocks, you can call it whatever it is that you want, if the T word scares you. But there is something there subconsciously and unconsciously that is up for your healing and your transformation and your growth. And so let me say about healing trauma that it's not as scary as some parts of you think that it is going to be. Okay. Much like I'm not a therapist. Let me just say that too. I'm a coach. My therapist said that I should be a therapist. I'm like, girl, I ain't going back to school. So I'm doing coaching. So what we do in our communities is we don't go back and relive the pain of the trauma and the things that have happened to us. That is not what we do. It's actually, it can be very hurtful and harmful in order to do that and try to like relive it. What we start to do, because we are working today in the present day, what we actually do is we begin to have a new relationship with that trauma. And I'm not saying let it go. I'm not saying make it okay. I'm not saying, like just say, oh, they did the best they could. That's not what we do. But what I'm saying is that when something happens to you, again, whether you know it or you don't, there's a part of you that forms. Like we're talking about the protective part, the masculine part of a boss babe earlier. So there's a part of you that forms. And that part of you has actually been screaming for years and years, decades probably, for you to see it and hear it and understand it and love it, get curious about it, and come close to it for a long, long time. So my work is really, I'm a connector. I help you have a new relationship present day with the parts of you that formed because of the way things that happened to you. Now, how do you heal trauma? Again, if I could snap a finger and it would all be good, then that would be amazing. But it doesn't work like that, because the patterns and all the blocks and all the things, they've actually formed neural pathways in your brain and in your body. And that's like our behaviors, all the behaviors that we've done again and again and again. All the thoughts, people say, get rid of your negative thoughts. If you could do that for the long term, you would. Like, instead of having the willpower, just like go meditate or just change your thoughts or change your mindset. You can do that for a short time, but over time, my guess, because those neural the like pathways in your brain and in your body have been there for so long, they're going to keep coming back. So it's really about, it's repetition, support, and consistency over a period of time is what really heals trauma, and what really starts to do the rewiring necessary when you go to, let's say, I don't know, what would it be, like let's say eating and dieting, for example. Like, you go to the carrot instead of the ice cream, but not because you're fighting yourself, but because it's actually what's good for you. And that is, like, when you actually do things not because you're fighting yourself, or but because it's actually in alignment with your truest, like, fulfillment, your truest self, your truest needs and wants and desires, all those things, that's where it gets really good. And that can happen, but again, it takes time to do that. And I do want to say, Desmond, I do have to go because I have another call coming up soon.
Okay, okay. No problem. So you got time for another question or no?
If make it quick, I can.
Um, okay. So it's kind of a deep one. I don't even know if I should even tackle that one, but I'll ask it anyways.
Okay.
Is it the partner's responsibility to help heal trauma, or is it solely the survivor's personal journey?
Ooh, it's your responsibility. Done.
As
I'm
a
just kidding.
survivor?
I think as a human, it is our responsibility to take responsibility for what we own, our
Right.
side of the street. And if you're in a victim mentality, my question to you would be, what is your role in all of this? And if you can get to what is your role, then you can get to, I'm going to take responsibility for this. Now, there are all of those things out there in the world on Instagram and all those things that say, oh, your partner, you heal in partnership. Absolutely true. You absolutely
Right.
do. But here's the thing. If you have not done your inner work and you go into a partnership hoping that they can help you heal, it's going to hurt and it's going to be painful, because we have to, our work again is to own our side of the street. And I think that we never, I don't think that we're ever like fully healed. Like, I am continuously on my journey with myself,
Mhm.
my business, money, my partnership. Like, we're continuously getting to deeper, deeper, deeper and deeper layers all of the time. So it's not like, if there's a part of you that thinks that you're going to feel happy, you're going to feel whatever, fulfilled or validated or affirmed if you're in a relationship that is going to help you heal, that's your work, because that story is going to actually be pushing you towards the wrong people. We make decisions about the right people when we are fully in touch, or mostly in touch. There's no fully healed, but mostly in touch with who we are and what we want. And a lot of people that have been through some stuff find it very hard to either know who they are and what they want, or, like, if you're a goddess woman, you know who you are and you know what you want, but what you want is not coming to you. And so it's very confusing when you're the goddess woman, because you think that you know what you want, but then what you want isn't coming to you. There's an opposite and misalignment. So that's the work for her. So there's different stages, in the feminine dating archetype structure. But again, like, you absolutely, like, at least the people that I work with are absolutely, they're tired of being sick and tired, and they're finally ready to
Right.
make change. And they come to me, and they own their side of things, because they know in their gut that becoming the woman or the man that God made them to be is that, like, that is first, and then it's attracting the aligned partnership.
Got it. Got it. Nicely put. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed you yet again.
Yeah,
It's
thank
always a
you.
pleasure. But that's going to conclude today's episode. I hope everybody enjoyed it, got something from it. Continue to like, share, comment. If you haven't already, subscribe, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much,
So
Desmond.
no problem. Have a good one.